And why, with development spending so critical to the islands taking its rightful place in our country, does the allocation for the development program represent only 19% of the Assembly's stated needs? All of this in the record-breaking largest budget in the history of our country. So, Mr. Speaker, if the government is serious about accelerating development in Tobago, be it with a marina, an industrial seaport, an aquatic center, or with a facility for research on indigenous Tobago products for export to the world, not only would they have funded existing projects to their speedy conclusion, but they would have also taken the bold step to allow THA, with its BAA1 credit rating, early approval to borrow on the local capital market to finance its own development. And more immediately, we would have drawn the lessons from the Prime Minister and the Attorney General's ill-fated attempt to obstruct the THA and private investors on the Millshelf project, and openly declare once and for all his support for the Assembly's involvement in public-private partnership project finance arrangements, just as he planned to do for state enterprises in Trinidad, and with the full support, as necessary, for the central government. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is proud that in less than 2 weeks she has foisted on the population an ineffective version of proportional representation. Yet, the Prime Minister and her government are prepared to studiously ignore a process in which the people of Tobago have been involved for over 6 years and are begging for her engagement. The Prime Minister is prepared to disregard her open pledge to the people of Tobago during the Tobago House of Assembly election campaign. And it is evident that on this matter, this government is bent on ignoring the people of Tobago for exercising their democratic right to reject the most incompetent, the most corrupt, and pumpkin-infested government that this country has ever seen. I can give the Prime Minister and her collapsing raft the assurance that the people of Tobago will remain strong, resilient, and focused, and will not be bribed or bullied into submission. I am confident that the Tobago House of Assembly remains ready to engage the central government at any place and at any time in order to bring a swift, dignified resolution to the long-delayed matter of internal self-government for the people of Tobago. However, their patience is running thin, and I caution this government against continuing its devious and cynical ways in this regard. And as we listen to the Minister of Finance make his allocation with respect to the university campus in Tobago, we wonder whether he knows that this too is another pumpkin patch, tended only by the UNC on lands hastily acquired by the economic cabal. Would the Minister publicly express his view on the need for the THA to be respected in this and similar developmental plans for Tobago? And I'd like the Minister in his response to respond to this. So, Mr. Speaker, just as Tobagonians on January the 21st of this year sent a powerful message to the partnership that they had had enough, the people of Trinidad have taken heed and await their turn on October the 21st to send the same message, the same Tobago message, even louder and clearer, in order to return some sense of sanity and decency to the management of the nation's affairs. Mr. Speaker, I move to sport. White on white. Mr. Speaker, in the budget debate, the Minister stated that consultancy and design work is advancing rapidly for the construction of the National Aquatic Center, the National Tennis Center, and the National Cycling Center, all to be built in UNC areas. The Minister of Finance also stated that these facilities will be supported by 3 national multi-purpose sport facilities. Where would these facilities be built? I'll speak about that a little later. But, Mr. Speaker, I would later speak about the neglect of the sporting facilities in the constituency of Laventille East Morvant by this Minister of Sport. Mr. Speaker, a perusal of the PSIP document will reveal that no provision was made for the refurbishing of any recreation ground or court in Laventille East Morvant area. And Mr. Speaker, after numerous letters sent to the minister has done no work in my constituency. And it is a shame to see the areas that this ministry has been concentrating on. So, Mr. Speaker, if they fix 20 grounds in their area, they may fix a token in a PNM-led area as an offering, you know. Sometimes it might be 1 and 20 in another, Mr. Speaker. Okay? Mr. Speaker, I quote from the PSIP documents, pages 26 and 27, and permit me to quote. In 2013, preliminary construction will commence on the 6 national signature facilities. A 2,500 seating capacity National Cycle Center, where? At Couva. A National Aquatic Center to host international swimming competitions, where? Couva. A National Tennis Center, Mount Hope. 3 multi-purpose sport and indoor facilities, 1 at Charleville, 1 in Couva again, 1 in Faizabad. Mr. Speaker, people who are sent could clearly understand what is happening. Page 27, I read again. Permit me to quote. Funds in the sum of $20.8 million were utilized under the development and upgrading of recreational grounds, park spaces, projects, for the construction of a car park and pavilion, grading and grassing, installation of lighting and plumbing, and implementation of drainage works at the following locations: Mayaro, Ojo Road, Sandy Grande, Pinal, Malabar, Santa Cruz, Diego Martin, and Caparo. Mr. Speaker, remember I said that you put in a token offering. You put in 1 sometimes or 2 when they do 20 of their areas, Mr. Speaker. And this could never be fair, Mr. Speaker. One sure way, Mr. Speaker, of dealing with deviant behavior is through sports. And yet, this government wants us to believe that they are serious about crime. If you check the areas that they are concentrating on, Mr. Speaker, to build recreation grounds, to refurbish grounds and sporting complex. Mr. Speaker, this government must not play politics with sports, because the pursuit of excellence encouraged by sports make us better individuals, and it encourages discipline and a drive to excel. Member for W. O'Meara, you should be repentant at this time instead of laughing over there. The minister should recognize by now that sports can act as a deterrent to criminal activity and antisocial behavior. Therefore, emphasis should be placed in areas where it is felt youths are at risk, not in UNC areas. And I repeat, Mr. Speaker, emphasis should be placed in areas where it is felt that youths are at risk, and not just in UNC areas. And this is what is happening right now in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Sport received a whopping $700 million. And the Auditor General's report states that the Ministry of Sport could not account for close to $45 million last year, Mr. Speaker. What measures have been put in place to ensure proper accountability with respect to the spending of taxpayers' money in the Ministry of Sport? Mr. Speaker, I want to ask, where did money go on? And that is a question I would like to ask the Minister of Sport, Member of Parliament for W. O'Meara, to answer, particularly in light of the findings of the Auditor General's report. The Honourable Minister loves to wage war against sporting organizations in this country, Mr. Speaker, telling them to present audited financial statements and so on before they can get funds from his ministry. That is not a bad thing. But the funny thing is that if he were to apply the same logic to him, he would have been out of a job of the last cabinet reshuffle last week, Mr. Speaker, if not before. With your leave, Mr. Speaker, permit me to quote from the Auditor General's report. On page 17 of the report, we note that the Ministry of Sports did not, or refused to provide information to the Auditor General concerning the following: outstanding commitments, particulars of trusts and other monies held, particulars of all gifts and donations received from agencies, entities, whether monetary or in kind, particulars of all gifts and donations and so on concerning employees, particulars of the total number of persons employed in contract positions and the total amount paid to such persons during the financial year. Action taken in respect of the requirements of the Ministry of Finance relative to the preparation and submission to the Controller of Accounts the personal information of employees, and that is required to determine their separation and pension benefits. So, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, where is the transparency and accountability that was supposed to be part of the new politics promised in 2010? Under the category of overpayments on page 25 of the Auditor General's report, the Ministry recorded 6 cases of overpayment, totaling $17,373.43, while reports received by the Auditor General recorded 16 cases totaling $136,599.27. So a very significant and disturbing disparity indeed. Under the heading Individual Areas of Concern, we have on page 45 under the subheading Current Transfers and Subsidies and subhead Football World Cup 2014. Weaknesses were noted, and I'm quoting from the report now, in the verification procedures for certain payments under this vote. It did not appear that amounts submitted for reimbursement were properly verified before payment was made, and some instances noted were 2 payments totaling $11 million were seen to have been made. However, the statement provided in connection with this payment totaled $5,611,933.25, a difference of $5,388,066.75, Mr. Speaker. A payment of $2,579,920.99 was seen to be supported by an expenditure statement for $2,449,950.94, a shortfall of $129,970. Monies unaccounted for. A payment of $992,900 relating to the financial year 2010 for amounts due to the technical staff and others involved in the senior men's national team was unsupported by timesheets as required by Cabinet directive. Further, the funds were reported to be used for other football programs than the one intended, and evidence of approval for this variation was not provided. A response received from the Ministry regarding the Auditor General's query on this matter revealed that the amount of $992,900 was again paid in the financial year 2013 to defray the original amount outstanding for 2010. Mr. Speaker, on the same page, 45, under the subheading Non-Profit Institutions, we are treated to the following. Non-profit institutions. Payments totaling $180,737.50 were made under the non-profit institutions vote as the Ministry's contribution to funeral arrangements for one individual. This is contrary to Financial Regulation 65(2), which states a vote may not be applied to a purpose for which it is not intended. What I would like to know is whose funeral cost $180,737.50. Mr. Speaker, I didn't know the Ministry of Sport is involved in funeral and making funeral arrangements and burying people. No, that casket had to have been made of gold and diamonds. And we would like the Minister of Sport to account for this money, because this is taxpayers' money and he's over there joking.